Hi everyone, I'm Lynn from Finds of Yesterday, and I got out my Christmas brooches recently. I know it's only July, but I thought it was time to get them listed for the fall season because people will probably start buying them in August, September, maybe. They're not going to wait till November, December to buy them. You might get a couple orders around that time frame, but most of the people will buy these early fall. So I thought I would just share some things with you that I noticed when I was looking them over. And let's start right here with this one. This one I believe is a Jerry's brooch. Obviously it's an ornament and it is marked on the back, but it's so hard to read. And Jerry's brooches sometimes are hard to read. So this one you'll see is probably cast, and then they put green enamel on the top and these little, they're probably acrylic beads that are glued on. Nothing fancy, but this is a pretty common design you'll see from like the 1960s through the 90s and even into today. Here we have a coral one that's another very similar design, but it has a lot more detail to it. It has cutouts on it. You can see the leaves up here with a little bit of rhinestones in the ribbon, and then it actually dangles. And the blue rhinestones are all set on little individual round spots, and all the ribs are that's all open. Flip it over, let's look at the back. So it's signed right up here on the ribbon, which is really hard to see. And it's got a smooth, glossy, kind of a glossy silver back. Very, very nice piece, and it has a quality to it. This one probably would sell for a little bit more than the gold one. I would say coral one might sell for $15 to $20, where the other one would be more in the $10 to $13 or $14. We have this little poinsettia here. It's kind of cute. It's just a simple enamel on gold, red enamel on gold. It's kind of transparent, so you can kind of see the gold brushed coming through, which I don't know, I feel like that's a little bit cheaper quality. And then the rhinestones all on the inside are, looks like bezel set. And you look at the back, this is a very cheaply done piece. It's one solid piece. They didn't have to do a whole lot to it. There's no cutouts on it whatsoever. It does have ribs inside the leaves. That gives it a little bit more texture. But this one is no name brand, cheaper piece. Probably will sell for $8.99 to $9. None of these are really high priced, but we're just gonna look them over. This one's an Anne Klein. It's signed AK with the copyright symbol, so we know it's after 1955. Has these little individual little bells, but you can see the textured back on it, and it's enamel too. And it does have a little bit of 3D look, a 3D look to it, so that's gives it a little bit nicer quality. Here's another one that is got a 3D quality to it, but it's all one piece. It was all molded in one piece or cast in one piece. But it does have some cutouts that gives it a nice little added feature, and it's got a nice pin on the back that goes all the way across with no under. It was soldered on each point. Has a glossy back. With the glossy backs, that usually tells me it's a little bit earlier. Here's another bell one. You can see the difference in design on this one. They've got different textures, like this is brushed, this is smooth. It's got little rhinestone accents. I even think these are little acrylic red berries. It's got some clear rhinestones and these little dangle beads, which is very unique, and more enamel. That's a nice piece, but just not you know, it doesn't have a huge amount of value to it. When you see the pins like this with this little square rivet or almost like a nail in the center, that's usually a good sign it's from the 1950s to 60s. And you can see how the little beads are hung on the back. That looks earlier to me, so I would say 50s, 60s. It does have the texture, so we kind of have to pay attention to the texture. And this piece right here, do you think that is old or new? This one to me is obviously older. You can see it has a brushed look to it. It is a little bit more wore. Some of the enamel is coming off. The enamel is not shiny, glossy enamel like on this one. See the difference? The red is kind of almost like a matte color, and so is the green. And some of the enamel is peeling up, so it kind of tells you it might be a little bit older too, unless it's just poorly made, a poorly made new piece. Then you got this little nail rivet, whatever you want to call it, in the center of this clasp. Again, this is probably, I would say, 1950s. It doesn't have a real big texture to the back, but it has a light pebbling texture. That's from it being cast. This one I would probably sell for, I'd probably list it at $22.99, and I would probably take a little less for it. All right, then we have these three wreaths up here. Let's look at this one first. It is an enamel wreath on gold tone, and look at the quality of this. It's just sloppy construction. It does have the soldered clasp where it's soldered at 2 points, and the back is a little bit textured. It's a little earlier, like maybe the 70s. It is just not a real good quality piece. Look at how thin it is. And it's full of enamel, which is nice. But compare it to this one, which has like 3D leaves. They're textured. It's got these little berries put in between the leaves and some green enamel. It's got different textures to it. And the bow stands up a little bit. It does have a little bit more 3D-ness to it, if that's a word. And it's not too bad. It has a glossy back. I believe this is Jerry's. Yes, it is Jerry's. And again, see how hard that is to read? Try to get closer so you can see it. It's upside down. That's one thing. Stamped upside down. Yeah, it's just really hard to read. So that's a medium quality one. Then we have this one. Look at how nice this is. All the edges have a little ruffled edge to them. It's got ribbons wrapped around it, full of clear rhinestones in a pave design or setting. See how the ribbon stands out on top? So it's got more of a 3D effect to it. The back is done nice, and this one is a Napier. Napier is usually a little bit better quality than a lot of the Jerry's brooches. It's got a clasp that's soldered on 2 points. It's got a dome shape to it. It's not just flat. And it's a little bit textured. Here we have a deer. This one's a really cool design. I just like how elongated the neck is and how slender it is. It's a pretty one. And the back is textured. It's got like a brushed gold on it. Has a clasp that's soldered at 2 points. This one is probably an average one. It has a little glass eye, and I would say it would sell for about $12 to $15. And then you look at this ribbon one. Look how nice that is. That is such a higher quality piece. It's beautiful. Has little pave rhinestones in the fold of the ribbon. And this is high gloss, but it's ribbed underneath to give it some texture. Glossy gold, smooth. It's just like smooth and silky feeling. You flip it over, it's got a textured back, but this tells me it's been pressed because it's pretty consistent texture on the back. Has the little solder clasps. I'd say it's probably from the 90s, if not early 2000s. It is no name brand. It might be branded, it's just not stamped. Now let's look at the Christmas trees. These are always my favorite. Let's start up here. I have lots of Christmas trees already listed, but these are some that I'm getting ready to list. This one, if you look at the quality of this, it is very low quality. It has this messy looking back on it. It's really thin. It does have the 2 solder point clasp. Even the tree looks like it has a seam on it, almost like it's was pressed into the mold. And then what they did was just painted it with green enamel, kind of sloppily. They did add some little beads. They glued them on. And a little red clear enamel down here. Just low quality. This one I honestly won't list by itself. I might put it in with some other Christmas trees. And then we have Monet. Here's a small one, and here's the large one. And they come in different colors, unless they have faded over time. I'm not sure. I doubt it. I think they made them in these colors. But this is one of the most popular Monet Christmas trees that I've seen. I have had so many of these, and I have some listed right now for $12 and $14, and they're not selling. And I have these two yet, so I probably won't list these. I may throw them in with a lot. Besides them not selling, they are of higher quality. Look at the lovely back they have on them. It is textured. It has this nice sturdy long pin that has 2 solder points. It's marked Monet very clearly on that one and on this silvery gold one. And they come in different sizes. You can just see, look how the inside is indented and the outside is smooth. It's just a nice quality. Monet, Trifari, they all made very nice quality pieces. Here's another one that's, it almost has a swirl pressed design on it. It does have a little bit of layering of the tree. The back is really nice, smooth, with texture in the middle, and it's marked LC for Liz Claiborne. She does have higher quality pieces. They do look nice. Has the 2 solder point clasp. And you can just feel the weight on this as compared to this one. And some pretty little rhinestones. It's not real high priced. It's still in the $12 to $14 range. Then we have this one, which I just love, the cup chain. They call this cup chain when there's a rhinestone next to each other, one right after another on a strand, and then they're prong set in. You can look close enough. You can see the little gold prongs on the edges. All the rhinestones are prong set in, so if one falls out, it's really easy to replace them. This is an adorable little cutout one. Nice little 1950s design to it. This one I would say should sell for $15, but it just depends because there's so many Christmas trees out there on the market. This is an interesting little, more modern one. It has a frosted, crushed design on it. This is like textured when you feel it. It's like an ice blue, little rhinestone in the tree topper. Has a glossy back. It is a little bit textured. It looks like they brushed it. And it has the 2 solder point clasp. This one probably would sell for 15 to 17 maybe. This one is one of my favorites. I saved the better ones for last. It's got these little dangles. That is a nice little added touch to such a pretty tree. It's got a long stem on it to add length. You flip it over. Look at the green rhinestones are prong set. They are rounded. So they are considered cabochons when they're rounded and not faceted. They have open backs. Lovely, lovely piece. The light can come through. See how the light shines through? Many people say that this is Juliana, but I don't have any proof of that, so I'm not going to list it that way. Look, it's got these cute little dangles on the front, as well as these rhinestone ribbons. It's very decorative piece, very nice piece. I'll probably list it somewhere between 120 and 140, but of course we take offers on that. And then we have these last 2 pieces, which I adore. These are some older ones. See the open work? It's got some little, I believe these are acrylic orange beads. It's got the old prong set teardrop rhinestones in it and the emerald cut rhinestone in the center. It's got a glossy back, and you can see this was like cup chain all along the edges that they extra soldered over. So this was hand soldered, and it's marked Ron. So that's a kind of a unique piece, and it has this pin that extends past the clasp that usually makes it older. They say the pin clasps or the pins can extend past the clasp up into the 70s, but the longer they are, the earlier they usually are, unless it's a handmade piece, more so an artisan piece. You might see it happen more often. But some of the manufacturers did not extend that pin very, very long past 50s. So this one I am going to estimate, there's no AB rhinestones in it, so I'm going to say, oh, I just noticed this little bell in the center with a little green dangle. How adorable. I didn't even notice that at first. I would say that probably 1930s to 40s. Great piece. I'm going to probably put it at 65 to start, but we'll see. And last but not least is this cute little opalite. I don't know if these are acrylic or glass. They kind of look like acrylic, but they're like an opal color, blue, pretty color. They're made to look like opal, but they're not. And they are faceted. It's got this little cherub angel in the middle. And these light yellow rhinestones. It's just not a typical color scheme for a Christmas tree. So that's why I love it. I think that's one of the reasons. You can see on the back it's got that cup chain that was extra soldered for extra support. It's got the 2 solder point clasp on it. It's glossy. The pin does not extend past the end on this one, so that tells me it's maybe a little bit newer than the last one we just looked at. I'm gonna say 1950s on this. If somebody knows any different than this, than what I'm quoting you, please let me know in the comments. I know you guys have a wealth of knowledge out there, and I've been doing this since 2019, so I am definitely not an expert on aging pieces, but this is what I've learned over the years that I have been doing it. So I just appreciate you joining me and helping me out, and I hope that maybe I helped you a little bit. So if you learned anything, if you like this video and you want to see more like this, please hit the like button and subscribe, and you'll be notified when I put out the next video. Thanks again. See you on the next one.